Welcome, everyone, to Launch Today, the podcast focused on what it takes to get your new business to $1 million or more in annual revenue. From marketing tactics to incredible guest interviews, we focus on behind-the-scenes content from masters in their field. If you want to grow your startup or your business, you don't want to miss today, because today's guest is revolutionizing wealth protection through accessible Nevada trusts for entrepreneurs and everyday Americans. Alessandro Chesser is the CEO and founder of Dynasty, making the first platform where anyone can remotely establish Nevada irrevocable asset protection trusts online. Before launching Dynasty in 2022, he spent nearly 8 years at Carta, scaling from their first ever salesperson to VP of sales across multiple divisions, bringing deep expertise in equity management and financial technology. Alessandro, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I like to ask everybody, as the first question, why the heck do you do what you do?
It sounds everything I've done in my entire career has led me to this point. My very first job at 16 years old was at Bank of America, was while I was still in high school. And I was on the sales side of the retail bank. So people would walk in and I would sell them business accounts, checking accounts, loans, investment products. And so that's really where banks actually trained us on what trusts are and how to interpret trust documents. It was part of the job. We had to be trained on them. And I always knew that only the richest people use trusts. And fast forward the second half of my career, I worked for Silicon Valley startup companies. The last company I worked for, a company called Carta, our whole mission was our whole business model was digitizing legal documents. We took legal documents that corporate law firms were generating for startup companies and startup investors, and we were digitizing them. And the first half of my career and the second half of my career, you combine the two, financial services and trusts, and then working in software and automating legal documents. And so that's how the opportunity came to me and my co-founders, like, hey, this is a really powerful legal document that most Americans don't have that should be simplified, should be digital, should be accessible to anyone.
Phenomenal. It is, but really powerful to find a founder where their story just fits like this. I've interviewed a bunch of founders for Launch Today, of course, and a lot of them are like, looking back at it, I can see how it makes sense, but you wouldn't have guessed I'd arrived here looking at what I was doing. And it's different for you. You've got almost a mission driving you through a lot of this that brings you to this point with all the expertise you need. So you've gone from being Carter's first salesperson to founding Dynasty. And at some point, you mentioned your co-founder went, this document is really powerful. It should be more universal. But this is like, I guess Carta is not a super sexy idea either, but it is definitely one that got super well funded and the Valley loved. What made you decide to go into, again, let's go into legal tech, not necessarily the sexiest thing, but a place to build and go forward from, as opposed to doing, I don't know, AI everything these days?
Yeah. For us, I think people come in and they see AI and they're like, okay, I need to create an AI company. What should we do? They're thinking about it differently than we thought about it. We didn't think about how do we build a good business, right? We started with what's the biggest problem we can think of that needs to be solved? And we were strictly thinking about, didn't matter what type of company it was, right? It was B2B or B2C, didn't matter. What's the biggest problem we can think that needs to be solved? And so this problem also was very relevant for me and my co-founders because we all made some money at Carta and we all got married and had kids and needed to create a trust. And so we tried to create one separately and none of us actually finished it.
Wow.
Because the process is painful. It's not easy. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of homework is what they give you, a lot of homework, a lot of paperwork to fill out. And I'm like, oh, I'll get to it later. And I never get to it. That's like the issue. That's the issue. And nobody wants to especially because they got me on the phone. They asked me and my wife, what happens if you die? What does the wife want? It's created really I felt like they were trying to create conflict, to create a more complex trust.
Okay.
And so I was just like, I saw that. I'm like, this needs to be fixed. And so it wasn't about AI. It's AI, man, and it'd make a tremendous impact in the business that we're building. The foundation of it was, what's the biggest problem we can think of?
That's a good way to build something. So this number stands out in your profile. It sounds insane to me, but 1 in 6 Americans faces lawsuits, bankruptcy, or divorce every year. That's wild. That
Yeah, that's right.
And with that, suddenly when you say that, like that means any given year I've got a nearly 20% chance that I wish my money was protected in some way that it's not. Founders, all of us, you, me, everybody listens to my show, everybody I've interviewed, you do this because you hope for the asymmetric upside, right? But once the asymmetric upside comes, it may be too late because something comes up and you lose a lot of that upside. What's the biggest misconception you're finding founders have about asset protection that costs them peace of mind?
Yeah, so interesting. And I completely understand why you're focused on asset protection, because that's our website. But founders actually have a much more incredible opportunity, which is with QSPS trusts,
Okay.
which we do. Qualified small business stock. So for founders, it's less, they haven't made any money yet, but their founder stock can be very valuable. And so what founders can do is they can create multiple trusts, and each trust can be set up in a way where each trust will have its own $10 million QSPS exemption, which means each trust can recognize up to $10 million of tax-free capital gains, right? So if you set up 5 trusts,
I've never heard of that. That's insane.
so if you set up 5 trusts, you can completely avoid taxes on up to $50 million in capital gains.
Wow.
So it's the biggest opportunity for founders. And that was another part of starting this company, is I saw my CEO at Carta do that. He set up all these trusts, he sold a bunch of money, and he pays 0 taxes. And I was like, I paid 50% taxes. So I was like, that's not fair. How come you got to save all your money? I had to pay all the taxes. And, that's one reason why we wanted to start this. And the founder market is definitely a great market for us to address, especially because of the fact that we came from Carta. So it's a great partnership.
Yeah, of course. You know it all.
Opportunity.
Wow. No, that's what I've been in this space for almost 20 years. I've never heard of this. So
Small business stock. Yeah.
I'm not a legal guy. I'm a marketer guy / founder guy, but never heard of it. What a cool thing to share. Thanks to that.
There's some criteria that you have to do to qualify for it. So you have to own the stock for at least 5 years. So you have to if you have options, you have to exercise them. If you have founder shares, you don't have to exercise them. You have to have the stock for at least 5 years. And the shares have to be acquired originally before the company has $50 million in capital on its balance sheet. So it's like early stage companies are pretty much all going to qualify. And the third criteria is it has to be a software company. It can't be like a services company.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so this is for qualified small businesses, not like all small businesses, qualified small businesses. So yeah, most startups qualify.
Yeah. Wild. So I built and sold an AI startup in the legal tech space 2 years ago now, almost exactly. Tiny exit. I made like 100K. I am not startup rich, but it was a quick build and a quick sell. And I saw in this market, right, it is hard to build a moat around what your software is, because a lot of this is very transactional, contracty stuff. It's a crowded market. A lot of people would say, don't launch in a crowded market, but here you are and doing well for yourself. What's your framework for figuring out this is a busy market, but there's opportunity for me?
I think a busy market, but if you look at it, 95% of trusts are created by ultra high net worth individuals. 90% of people don't have a trust. Big opportunity. Busy, lots of competitors that are going after the 10%, top 10%. Nobody's going after the rest. And as far as opportunity goes, in addition to market size, we also look at the fact that there's no technology, there's no AI, especially when you think about not just trust creation, but licensed trust company services, which is what we are. We're a licensed Nevada trust company, which means we can be the Nevada trustee for anybody that creates a trust with us.
Ah.
That business, the trust company market, the professional trustee business is fax machines and print suits and printers
Wow.
and filing cabinets.
Wow. Okay. I know a little bit about trusts. My father, who was a lawyer years ago, set up an Alaskan trust, which probably at the time was the right way to do it. It was like 20 years ago, so it was a different time. So I know a little bit about it and how that can work. But it definitely, anybody else I've talked to, they're all just, what? Why? No, that's what billionaires do. So how do you make the category shift in someone's head and say it's not just for billionaires?
Yeah. So you're asking about marketing?
A bit, but also as you've launched Dynasty, you have customers. Clearly, you're persuading people right now. They go check you out, they hear about you, you talk to them, whatever, and they go, "Oh wow, you mean this is something I could do?" It's not just for billionaires. That's education's coming in there, right?
Yeah. And so that's our marketing strategy. We do short form videos. We do TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and videos, short form videos, right? Educating people on what this is and why everybody should have one. And it's not just us creating videos. We have a bunch of influencer partners creating videos for us as well. It's like enterprise sales. You get a big influencer, you convince them to push us, and it's like an enterprise sales deal. Yeah, that's how we're doing it because it takes videos to educate people. This would not work. And it's only like short form video, the explosion of short form video platforms have allowed this to happen because before like static ads on Facebook, like that, you can't educate somebody with that, right? Short form videos where you can hook people in and get them to listen and pay, and they're like there to listen. That's what I love about short form video. It's okay. Television commercials, when the television commercial comes on, you automatically tune it out. You walk away, you go to the restroom, whatever. Short form video, you're on your phone, you're there to look content, commercials.
Yeah.
Like you're just scrolling and scroll. You'll take it with you to the bathroom, right? You're not gonna. It's such a more powerful, it's a much more powerful form of marketing and education that we found. And if you harness that and you're able to execute on that, if you're able to create viral content, organically viral content, then you can educate thousands of people. And we've got over 30,000 people to sign up in 24 months.
Nice, and that's principally driven by your content strategy.
100%.
Nice.
We don't do any other marketing.
And legal, like one of my favorite stories about how content educates and works in not you'd think TikTok friendly areas is there's a lady called Mrs. Excel on TikTok, and she has I think 1.1 million followers, and she just teaches Excel formulas.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
And has a master class at $400, and she makes like 2 million a year.
I'm telling you, this is the biggest opportunity. You know what's funny about this is the more I dig into this, the more traction we get from short form video, viral short form videos, the more I'm like, how come most other startups aren't doing this? I'm looking at like you have like individuals like you talk about selling Excel formulas and selling cookware and selling real estate agents and mortgage brokers, but you're not getting as many tech companies like that are. Do you have a couple examples of people that did it very well? Duolingo is a great example.
So good. Yes, they are.
They did very good. They did they wore like costumes.
Yes.
And they created a massive account and drove a ton of business for them.
One of my buddies runs a trash company. He picks up trash in just one neighborhood in Texas. And he puts out TikTok and Instagram videos that get 8,000, 10,000 views every single video. And again, he's only trying to advertise in like Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
Almost all of his signups are all coming from there. People, because they're funny, people will send his videos to people who they know live in Lubbock to be like, this guy's hilarious and you can pick up your trash.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a crazy ability to market in a way that, again, yeah, you're right. People want to see your commercial. It's wild.
Yeah.
So I think that leads into You posted about how many startups leak money and don't even realize it. I think marketing is one way in which they do. But do you have some other vulnerabilities from Carta? Obviously, you saw a lot of this, where you see startups are just money's going out the door and they don't even know.
I think that post you're referring to, I feel very passionate about, which is speed to lead.
Yeah.
And you have people on your website all day long. And when you get the right person on your website that wants to engage with you, the worst thing you can do is tell them to fill out a demo request form and try and talk to them next week.
Yeah.
Like, you need to get them on the phone today, immediately, when they're on your site. You can't even wait an hour. Like, when they're speed to lead, when they're on your site and they want to talk, you should be able to just pick up the phone and talk to them.
That's
And
8
AI,
plus years of sales experience being like, guys, quit screwing around.
that's right. And AI solves that problem for the first time ever. That problem could never get solved before. I could never figure out how to solve that problem in the past, because you can't, it's not like you can just put your phone number on the website. Then you're gonna have a bunch of people calling at the same time, and you can't answer all these calls. Who's good, who's bad, you don't know,
Yeah.
right? But now you have a filter. You have an AI voice agent that can answer the phone, qualify the person if they're qualified, depending on how qualified they are, transfer them straight to my phone, even if it's 12 a.m., right? Even if it's midnight. But if I get somebody on the line who's possibly interested in paying us 6 figures or more per year, I'll answer that phone. I don't care what time it is. Send them straight to my phone.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Awesome. Yes, AI voice screening agents are a heck of a good play. And there's a lot of folks in this space because it's brought what used to be only your Series D, your giant companies could afford 24-hour staff on a phone line. And now it's a couple grand a month, less, right? To have
Less.
this now done and managed for you. It's such a crazy change in what people are going to be expecting from sales.
That's right.
Actually, what you mentioned, you bring up an interesting point, right? Work-life balance. People talk about it. And I hear founders, I think successful founders tend to lean all in one direction. And then there's a lot of pushback on hustle culture, right? And say you can succeed if you don't put in someone called me at midnight with a 200K offer, I'm going to answer the phone. How do you get people in your company who are motivated to either align with you on let's freaking go, or maybe some folks do have a slower tempo?
I think it's about working smarter, not harder. And yes, I'm available for a $200,000 contract at midnight. No, I'm not available for a small issue that's nothing, that's not going to be very important at 5 p.m. on a Friday.
Gotcha.
And so I think I don't think you can just go, because number one, especially if we're talking about early stage startups, you need to be like stepping back, reflecting, thinking, going back. There's not enough work for you to go. There's just not enough. And if there is, most of it's not going to be important work. And so you need to focus on the important work. You can't just work to work. I see people going in and writing massive amounts of, I don't even know, they're like Google Docs, like strategy docs, and writing, or doing stuff. And like, you're organizing, you're doing a lot of work, but how much of that is necessary? And so to me, I think, to unpack your question a little bit more, how do we hire people? So we want to be a company that can acknowledge when something is important, and when something is important, we'll burn the midnight oil. But we don't want to be a company that just burns the midnight oil every day. No way. It's only when the important things happen. That's when you're on and you're off, you're on and off. And when you're on, right? And so I think that's really important. And when you hire people, there's some strategies to take. You want to make sure that people are mission aligned. If people are mission aligned, they're going to work hard when they need to work hard. If they believe in your mission, they believe in you, and they see the opportunity on the wall. If somebody's just looking for a job, they're not going to be the right fit. Not for our company, right? Maybe for other companies, but not our company, not the mission that we have, and what we want to accomplish. No way. And so I think a really powerful thing is, and we did this at Carta the entire time, especially in the beginning, we couldn't afford to pay more than our competition. We had less capital. And so we had to pay less and we had to convince people to take less. But it was a really good filter because people who took less money to come work for us because they valued the potential stock value more, you got it self-selected the right people immediately. And so that's we used to tell them, we're not going to give you the best offer. And if you're looking for the best offer, go join Facebook. You're not gonna get that here. But if you're looking to grind your teeth into the concrete and build a potentially massive business, like then you should think about coming and joining.
Gotcha. I like the downsell. It is whenever I hire, I lay out the, because CrowdTamer is a small company, right? There's 8 of us. I lay out the upsides, right? We profit share. If we all do well, we all do real well together. I lay out the downsides. It's a small business. You might blow up tomorrow. There you go. If you're willing to take the upside risk for the downside risk, let's go.
That's right. That's exactly right. The upside potential and obviously risk, of course. But yeah, obviously. But there's risk everywhere, especially in this environment and layoffs. Like you can get laid off anywhere. You go to Facebook, get a couple $100,000 a year and get laid off before you even start. Like that's happening in some of these big tech companies. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there's risk, the market, there's volatility.
It is definitely, it makes it, I've said for years that the smart thing you can do is have a job and at least one side gig if you're an employee, because that way, if you get fired, at least you've got the side gig. I think much of my team, I acknowledge, hey, you've got a side gig, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you don't do it. It can't interfere with your job, but what you do after hours. One of my best employees, she runs a bakery business making just extraordinarily beautiful cakes. And I encourage her, like, post the pictures in the company Slack channel. We want to see these phenomenal cakes you've made. And you're in Colombia, I'm in Montreal. I'm not going to buy your cakes. Sorry, they won't ship very well. But will I 100% be like, wow, that's phenomenal and support you with it? Yeah, hell yeah, support people with that. We actually bumped into this a bit, right? You've got some AI in what you're doing. I've done some AI legal tech stuff in the past. Of all the industries, right, the super knowledge heavy ones are the ones that AI is shaking up the most right now. If you're a plumber, you're still plumber in 5 years' time. There's not going to be a big change, I don't think, there. But if you're doing legal work, if you're doing code work, if you're writing, if you're designing, these things are just changing. How do you build a startup now in a knowledge work environment where things are so volatile that month to month, what's going on with the core tech that could power your business changes?
Yes. The nice thing is that all these AI tools are open source and available for everyone. So we don't have to compete by building AI tools. We just use AI tools. And as that changes, we just use a new tool. We learn we see there's a new better one out there, we move. And if as long as we keep doing that, we're going to be at the cutting edge just like everybody else that's doing that. And most of our competitors, all of our competitors are not doing that. And there will be new entrants, of course. There's more than we're not a business that's relying on a technology moat. The technology is open source. You can get the legal expertise. We're relying on execution. And we have a regulatory moat because that process to become a licensed trust company is a nightmare. It was a lot of time and money, a lot of money too. And so that's what it comes down to. We are going to out execute everyone, and we have a regulatory moat.
That's enough, man. That'll do. You said, what, 30,000 users in 24 months? That'll do, right? Gets you that demo pulled together.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do.
Everyone does. In any market, founders will frequently build nice to have things instead of must have things. And in many ways, this is like life insurance, right? You buy life insurance assuming you'll never need it. You set up a Nevada trust like this, assuming most of the life events that require that you have your assets protected won't happen. No one goes into wedding a marriage thinking you're going to get divorced, right? Nobody assumes your business will end in bankruptcy. How do you transform asset protection from a nice to have where people will never buy into, but no, you must do it and you must do it this month and not never, which is what happened to you when you tried to set it up yourself?
Yeah, urgency is that's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge. We spend a lot of time thinking about urgency. There's people that are going to have more urgency than others. For example, people that are engaged and going to get married soon and thinking about doing a prenup. And this is an alternative to a prenup. It's better, stronger, it's more protective. And you don't have to pre-negotiate anything with your future spouse. With the prenup, I have to tell my fiance, okay, I want to do prenup. We have to pre-negotiate the terms. We're pre-negotiating our divorce before we even get married. Like, that's a nightmare. And with the trust, you just put your assets in it and there's no conversation. And so it's a lot less friction and way more powerful. And so that set of people will have more urgency. People that already have been sued before are going to have more urgency. People that have new young children are usually going to have more urgency. And then founders that are raising capital, they have urgency because of the tax optimizations that you can do with trust. You need to do them before you mark up your company. So before you're going to raise a big round of financing, you need to be thinking about how many trusts you want to create.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, that's not part of the discussion for most founders that are thinking about raising a round is, but you want to set up trusts before this gets put into the bank.
Yeah, that's right. Because otherwise it's going to get more and more, you'll get less and less benefit. All the tax-free capital gains, like, you're going to diminish them if you don't do it. The sooner, the better. The more benefit you will get by doing it sooner.
I get that. Let me ask, you can probably tell from the background behind me, I love a good book. If you have books or audiobooks or podcasts or any like longer form media that you think a founder would benefit from reading, listening to, whatever, in the early days of their business, do you have any recommendations you would make?
My favorite book of all time, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Good book. Yeah.
So I think that's important. You want to learn how to sell. You want to learn how to get people to work for you. You want to learn how to raise venture capital. I think it's all part of the same thing. It's the art of influence.
Knowing how to convince people that you are likable. When I'm thinking about founder dynamics, one book I like to recommend for this is The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, which is a book about marriages and how to cope with a long-term relationship with your romantic other. But that's also like those dynamics are, with the exception of sleeping in the same bedroom, there's a lot that's the same between co-founders. And when friends and influence people is the performative part of relationships, and then the road less traveled to me is the way that you like, it's the putting in a decade together. How do you make sure that two different people in stressful situation when money's on the line, how do you stay aligned enough to put up with each other?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would also say that win friends and influencers, not just the way you act, I would say that it's also the way you feel. And so what I take from that book is not act like a good person. It's because the only way that you're going to be convincing is you actually have to be a good. Yeah, it's not just, okay, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear so that I can get what I want. It's like, I'm going to legitimately care about your intentions and help you get to your intentions. And if I do that, the end result is, of course, like, you're going to care more about my intentions, but like, it's be a good person. If you treat people good, help people, and they will help you. That's all it comes to. Like, and that's not just, to me, the thing I caught onto was the performative part. To me, it's like, you actually have to feel positive about people. You actually have to speak. It's not just speaking in terms of their interests. It's like being in terms of their interests.
Okay.
It's easy to do. It's not easy to do, but Some people naturally don't trust people, and is the opposite. Like you're going to go in and automatically trust people, right?
It is, I guess, performative may have been the wrong word, but it's the part that people can see more. I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
The public
And
eye,
performative can be viewed that way as well. I guess I just saw it the other way of like
pretending.
performance theater.
Yeah. As somebody who did theater for a decade, I definitely have a lot of performative in me. That's part of why I have the ridiculous mustache, right? It makes me memorable. Okay, so when friends that influence people, I do think I used to make the argument years ago that a intelligent, amoral psychopath, if they were really intelligent, would probably be one of the nicest people you knew. Because the best way to make things that you want to have happen come your way is to be nice to other people.
That's right.
So I don't know why
That's
so many
right.
psychopaths are a-holes instead. I guess
That's
because
kind of that's like yeah. It's a really interesting lens. I've never thought about that at all. But yeah, I think that's probably right. But you can't and they that the part though that I like think is that you can't just act like a nice person. You have to be an if you're not because people can read energy, right? And so you can't just act nice and say nice things. You have to be nice. You have to like actually be a nice person inside to for people to be able to trust you regardless of how you're acting on the outside.
all right. Well, let me ask you. I always like to wrap things up with if people want to find out more about you, Alessandro, or more about Dynasty online, where do they go to discover you?
It can go to LinkedIn, Alessandro Chesser, or just go getdynasty.com. We were also all over social media,
Yeah,
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Just look us up, Get Dynasty.
at Get Dynasty. Yeah, that is. Go check it out. And if you are not already subscribed to Launch Today, subscribe, follow, shout at the streets, whatever you feel like, man. We are here every week with great interviews from founders just like Alessandro. Appreciate your attention. See you next week.